Welcome to the Meltzone podcast from December 8th, 2020. This is episode 40. I'm Tom.
And I'm Stefan. And on today's episode, we are talking about our influence, or not our influence, our responsibility as influencers. So I recently released a video where I showed how you can 3D print trimmer line. Afterwards, I found out that it can potentially emit cyanide vapors. Should I have taken that video down? I don't know. We'll discuss about that. Next, Creality started another Kickstarter campaign after their CR6 that was launched earlier this year. They now have the CR30, a belt 3D printer on Kickstarter. Both of us made a video or a live stream about it. And people have questioned us, well, for once, why we even made videos about, still ongoing Kickstarters, and why we have been taking a look at the CR30 and not the also currently, belt printer on Kickstarter, the iFactory 1.
Yeah, lots of moral questions in this episode. Not so questionable topics are the idea of whether software gets so little attention versus new hardware updates in 3D printers. We talk about slicers, firmware updates, and minor firmware revisions that get a lot of hype, minor hardware revisions that get a lot of hype, but software and firmware that doesn't. Stefan, it's been a while, man. It's good to have you back. Well, it's to have you back. No, it's good to be together again on the podcast. What have you been up to?
Too much stuff, too much work going on, too much family stuff, too much renovation. I don't know. I didn't have like a free day for the last couple of months. Well, to be honest, Sunday has now become the family day where I really try not to work and spend my time with my wife and the baby. Yeah. But with free day, I mean a day where, I don't know, I can do fun stuff, even though family stuff is also fun stuff, but fun stuff in being like
for yourself,
gaming, tinkering for myself. But yeah, Christmas is coming. The time before Christmas is always crazy, but hopefully starting Friday, I'll have like 4 weeks off from normal work. Nice. I can finally start. Well, hopefully finally the renovation is mostly finished, because I was basically living on a junkyard for the last 3 months, because every day when the construction guys were coming, everything looked like a mess.
Yeah.
So I'm just so happy when all of that is over, and I'm so happy when I have my new space upstairs, when the house is not looking as like a junkyard anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
I mean, you can be sure the next thing's going to come up. Like as soon as you get one thing finished, like the next thing that keeps you busy is going to be there.
Definitely. So, I'll be renovating like my old office studio. I'll be renovating the baby room. But this is something I'm actually looking forward to, because I kind of noticed. So we did our garden a couple of weeks ago, and I was helping the garden guy out, just like raking stuff up. And I thought, okay, this is kind of like a really nice work.
Yeah.
Like physical work, not thinking too much. So, doing the renovation here is just, I wouldn't say stupid work, but different work that you can somehow enjoy, because it's even kind of meditative.
It's I find like physical construction, building stuff, and like having something where at the end of the day you can look back and see, okay, that's what I've done today. I find that very fulfilling to a way. Yeah. Like I watch a lot of like construction channel YouTube stuff, Perkin Builder Brothers, our buildings, our construction, Scott, what's the New Zealand guy called? Scott Brown Carpentry. like just it's something as an engineer you rarely get to experience. Just walking into a construction site in the morning, everyone knows what they're supposed to do, like you know your colleagues, and it's just you do your thing, and at the end of the day you look back and you're like, oh, I put in those 5 walls, and you know.
Yeah.
Sounds like a, I mean, physically tiring, yeah, but fulfilling job though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. And yeah, just also seeing, well, I'm looking forward to see, well, I know how my old studio now looks like. It's also a mess. It's cramped up. The walls are open because we had to put pipes in the walls and cables and stuff like that, and just getting everything out of there, just really getting everything out of there, and then putting new plaster on the walls, a new floor, and just having a beautiful new uncrowded room right here. It's gonna be great. It's really gonna be great.
Yeah, and you did get a ton of space in the new. Well, is it an addition? It's kind of like a roof lift, basically.
It's a roof lift. Yeah, we basically lifted our roof by a meter and also put Gaupen. I don't know what you say for that in English.
Yeah, keep going.
Whatever. So I basically have, so currently I'm working, my office is a 10 or 12 square meter office where I have 3 printers in here, my desk where I work, my tensile test machine, my impact test machine, a big rack. Yeah, a big rack behind me where there's stuff on there. So it's really cramped at the moment. And every time when we, for example, record the podcast, or if I do a live stream, or if I did a live stream in here, I had to move everything, and it was a horrible amount of work.
And you don't even have space to move stuff too. Like here, at least I can take my C stands where the 2 live streaming, like the monitors I use, I can push those back by a meter at least. But you didn't even have that space, so.
No, I didn't have that. And now I have like 25 square meters on the upper floor. And when I renovate this room in here, because there is a walk-in closet behind that wall, and we'll also remove that because the walk-in closet is going to go upstairs. It's going to be another 16, 17, 18 square meters additional room in here where I can have printers, where I can have my tensile testing machine and also the other stuff sitting at their place, and also I can leave them running.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really happy working next to a printer because it's loud and stinky and stuff like that. So I have a kind of stinky room down here, and I have hopefully a nice space upstairs where I have a nice desk to just shoot videos and work, and I don't know, relaxing, more open.
Basically, you added a whole bunch of space to your house for the channel.
I basically did. My wife is not happy that I'm now having 2 offices, but on the other hand, since we're not yet having a second child, it would be a waste not using this space.
They can share a room, can't they?
Yeah. We have a walk-in closet, and our basement is pretty big.
Yeah.
Nah, we'll see. Well, this is the thing. I started 4 years ago with like nothing, or well, doing YouTube with basically nothing. I had this room right here. The channel grew, but basically the space that I used didn't grow with the channel. And now it's finally the step to make everything bigger, making everything less cramped, making things are also more efficient. Because currently, if I need to shoot video, I always need to either move to the basement or move stuff around here. I have to move lights. I have just 1 pair of lights. So it's horrible. It's horrible.
What I'm always thinking about is like, okay, you know, the channel started in this one room and it worked great in this one room. Like, why can't we just keep doing what we did so well with the resources we had? Why does one have to grow? But yeah, like you said, it is really about efficiency, and it is about you know, being able to do it faster with less effort, because it is tiring if you just, you know, matroshkaing around in your little room and trying to stack things here and there.
And kind of, it's also a bit rewarding if you say okay, I started from, well, in a small office, and I can now finally afford having 2 rooms.
Yeah.
And I feel comfortable in there. I can have nice lights, I can have nice decoration, and it's not only work, but you also kind of need to enjoy the space where you're working in, because otherwise, I don't know, it kind of gets or makes you feel depressing. If it's just like a production facility, it's it is, after all, a creative job, right? Technically we're artists, even though we're not really producing art most of the time, though I guess if it's a video, it's not art, it's creative work, though. It's creative work.
I don't know, did we actually do the last podcast episode in the old studio already, or was that still in the old new studio? So
I think it was in the old new studio. Old studio. The last one was together with Gina.
Right. Oh yeah, that was from, God, where did we record that? Yeah, but in general, like I've been doing a lot of moving too. Just moved the entire studio twice this year.
Did you finally move out of the old space?
So,
like, completely?
So yeah, at the beginning of the year, I moved into what I'm going to refer to as the new studio. But because of, I don't know, health issues, I still don't know what exactly it is, I moved back into the old studio, which I'm in right now, into this basement studio. And I am out of the old studio. I'm out of the new studio. That ended, I think, end of October. The rent agreement there ended end of October, and I'm back in the old studio. Yeah.
Feeling comfortable?
Nah. There was a reason why I wanted to get out of here, but it is what it is. I mean, I wish I wouldn't have had to move everything twice, because I think just the physical moving everything in, moving everything out, and now I can't find half of my stuff because it's in a different place than where it used to be. That's the worst part, but yeah, I can work in here.
Did you actually use like the act of moving to get rid of stuff that you haven't touched for a couple of years?
No, but I'm doing now.
Okay.
So I did use the act of moving for organization and for just getting everything into IKEA Samla boxes, which is, I find, hugely helpful in just being able to grab and find stuff and knowing what crap you have and what you need to get rid of. And I'm now going through all of those boxes and all of those like collections of things and seeing, okay, this I can keep, this I can throw out. And over the last week or so, I think I've disassembled like 3 or 4 printers that were just sitting around, that I think we've talked about before. Like, printers aren't really something that you can give away or sell, or because of stuff that's attached to that process of giving away machines. But
so what are you doing with your old printers? Is it just for salvaging parts? Because this is basically also something. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I have like giving printers away to friends and colleagues, just also for kind of the same reason as you said. Shipping them is mostly not a good thing. Shipping them internationally is even worse.
You're probably better off just ordering a new one from Gearbest or something.
Yeah. But this is also something I kind of start facing, that I still have printers around that I basically don't need anymore, and I need to I realistically, I think I don't need anymore. But on the other hand, I always have in the back of my head, maybe at some point there could be a use for that particular one. So
yeah,
I'm maybe a bit of a hoarder. I don't know. My wife would say that I'm a bit of a hoarder.
Yeah. I mean, the giving away to friends, I've been doing that too with a couple of machines, but like, you have to be really clear about the fact that, hey, you're getting this machine and like, have fun with it. I'm out. Like, you figure it out, but I can't support you with this thing that I already want to get rid of, that I don't want to have around anymore. And I feel like it's the same with schools and stuff. But yeah, What I'm keeping from printers is basically the reusable stuff. So if it's got a decent hot end, that's staying. If it's got a reusable mainboard, of course V-slot profiles, heated beds, belts, linear motion systems, all that sort of stuff. So I've got a stack of V-slot. I've got a box full of mainboards. I've got a box full of LCD screens, and the plan is to do at some point next year to do like a scrap build of like, hey, because I've also got those aluminum profiles from the photovoltaic system, which are like 1.20 meter long profiles. They're 40 by 40 millimeters, with 50 by 50, 45. I don't know. They're pretty big, and I want to build something big from those and just use whatever I have.
Cool.
That's kind of the, maybe mainboard you can use for some sort of a motion control system like the tensile testing thing that I'm building, because that's basically what I need. It's an Arduino with a stepper driver, or with 5 stepper drivers. So yeah,
but still at some point you get to the point where, do I need like a 10th or a 20th mainboard in my Samla box? And people will scream, oh yeah, you don't need your printers anymore, I'll take them. But yeah, it's not that easy.
Well, is there like a FedEx collect service where you just hand them a printer and you're like, okay, here, have fun, please package it, and please make sure it arrives safely? Because like the packaging itself, I don't have boxes that big. Like I'd have to buy the boxes. I'd have to buy loads of packaging for them. And then, like you said, international shipping. Like shipping a printer with DHL, which is already one of the cheapest options, is like $80 just to the US. And if it's like Australia, it's like 150. Like an Init E10 isn't worth that much. It wasn't worth that much when it was new.
Yeah.
And maker spaces don't want our crap either, so that's the other thing.
I also already talked to schools, but they have their safety regulations, and they're basically even not comfortable having like a hot end where students could potentially touch it, where you say, okay, come on, you will not get like 2nd-degree burns from that. But on the other hand, I understand, if you press your finger into it, but then you need to be.
I know, but the stuff that schools have to worry about when it comes to like insurance, because like if you have a machine that maybe doesn't meet safety regulations and a student burns themselves and parents sue the school, like that school is in pretty deep shit. So understandable.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why things like Ultimakers and MakerBots and also the FlashForge printers, I think, kind of exist, because they are relatively closed from the outside. They are properly CE certified, at least Ultimaker and probably the MakerBots. I hope so. And sometimes they're even enclosed, where you could say, okay, you could ventilate the fumes outside.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
But talking about responsibility, should we start with our first topic?
Yeah, I totally forgot that.
Yeah, I mean, you put that in there. I
put that in there because at that point it was, I don't want to blame you, it's totally on me, but it was kind of ruining a really nice day.
It's
but go ahead.
Yeah,
but it was totally fine. It was totally fine. So
basically, let's set the stage. You published a video on printing with trimmer line, which is nylon in a filament compatible shape, right? You can stuff that into extruder and you can print parts from it, and most of the time it works pretty darn well. And I pointed out that Tallman, one of the most well-known manufacturers of commercial nylon filament and nylon blends, had done some studies on how much basically cyanide was being emitted from printing readily available Trimline or other nylons in a 3D printer. And it was like, well, it's not exceeding any health limits, any regulatory limits, but there is a very detectable amount of cyanide that is being emitted from some Trimline, especially I think it was when it's wet and when it's printed very hot, which is what you would expect. And like you put into our show notes today, like, should you have to delete your Trimline video?
Yeah, so the thing was, yeah, you pointed out that this could be potentially dangerous, and I was the one putting a video up on YouTube that said, okay, it's working really well, 3D printing Trimline, and basically telling people, go ahead and do that as well if you want to play around with nylons. So the video was doing really, really well. It's one of my
I'm
best
hoping it's
performing
still
videos.
doing well.
It's still doing well.
Okay, so it's still up. That's good to hear.
It's still up. But at the point when you posted that comment, and I totally understand that, and I didn't find that during my research that things like that could happen, I was asking myself, do I have the responsibility as an influencer to delete that video? Because do I advertise
Or advise,
doing something potentially dangerous, or advise doing something potentially dangerous? And many do that, and many just don't have any bad conscience doing that if it gets them views and money. But I'm honestly the person that doesn't want to be responsible for advising people doing potentially dangerous stuff. And I wasn't pointing that out in the video itself that it could be dangerous, because I didn't know that at that time. When you posted the video, I added that to the description. I added a pinned comment, but probably not everyone will be reading that. So what would have been the proper way to act? And I don't know, what's our responsibility as influencers?
Yeah. So I mean, in this particular case, what you basically have to weigh is, like, you know, when, just for you listening or watching, when you delete a video, you lose all your views, you don't get those back, and when you re-upload it, like, people aren't going to watch it as much because they've already seen it. So like, that is what you have to, well, it's what you are losing as a creator. You're nuking that video. That video is worth that from that point. You'd probably be better off just deleting it and, you know, never uploading it again. But I've briefly thought about this before we started recording, because I've read through these notes. But what my, like, human understanding would be like, hey, people watching these should not assume that when they're putting something into their 3D printer that is not made for 3D printers or intended as 3D printer feedstock, that it qualifies as a fully usable or safe or whatever. It's common sense, right? That's what I'd be thinking. You in the video are also not advising that it's completely safe. You're not saying, hey, this is safe to do, right?
No.
Yeah.
And I specifically said that I moved, printing it down into my basement due to having kind of weird smells in my office. But I didn't particularly say, don't do that, or only do that in a well-ventilated area, because there could be cyanide fumes.
Yeah. I think from a legal standpoint, well, obviously I'm not a lawyer, but I think that could just the fact that you're not saying this is safe and please do this because it's safe, I think from that standpoint you're safe. You are the process. No, you're okay from that standpoint. But, like, sure, if you have known, obviously you'd have added that note, right?
Of course.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not probably completely innocent there either. I've done some stuff in live streams, particularly when you just have to get stuff done that I would not advise people to do, from an electrical standpoint or from a, I don't know. And I've also had videos up that, you know, even Prusha complained about, with the voltage tweaking on the power supplies. And I in that case I did re-upload it, and because it was like, well, this is kind of, you're right. This is probably or likely going to break people's printers, which I think is a stronger reason to delete and re-upload a video than, hey, there might potentially maybe be some non-dangerous level of cyanide emissions. Yeah.
Well, I guess if the investigation by Tallman would have shown that there would have been cyanide levels way above the like regulated limits, I would have, I think, definitely put it down and re-uploaded it with specifically saying that. But since they let it run for like an hour in a closed box and still just had 1/10 of the legal limit, I said, okay, even though maybe I would have been more comfortable with having a statement in the video that could happen, I think I still don't have a really bad conscience and think that tons of people gonna die 3D printing Timberline. And since 3D printing Timberline has been around for like a decade,
pretty much, yeah.
If it would be crazy horribly dangerous, I would have found something during my research.
Yeah.
It's still, I'm still not 100% comfortable with the decision of leaving it up, but in the end, as you said, it was kind of a decision of not having that video, well, having spent a lot of work on a video and just basically nuking it, or just leaving it on the channel and getting views and therefore also getting money. Then it was also a sponsored video. Then you would have to discuss with the sponsor, hey, sorry, I had to put it down, I had to re-upload it. Now it's not performing well anymore, and things like that. It is, you are in a bad position, and I guess it's really hard to do it the proper way. And I don't know if it would have been the proper way to do it either way.
I wish YouTube had like a feature to re-upload a video without losing everything. I think it's something that's been suggested and complained about a lot before. There used to be the on-screen annotations, which didn't show up on mobile, and I think they just completely stopped showing them anywhere. But those at least used to be something that you could do. Right now what YouTube lets you edit is it lets you blur out regions in a video, and it lets you mute and replace audio, but that is it, and it also lets you cut out sections out of a video. I think is there still a view limit? It used to be 100,000 views, right?
There was a view limit, but I don't know if it still exists.
Right.
That is possible, but you're not able to add anything. There is the possibility, I've heard, I think on a MKBHD podcast, that if you really have good connections to YouTube, they can potentially replace a video, and that happens from time to time. But this is not an option that you have as a small creator.
Well, we at least have, someone we talk to at YouTube.
You have someone.
Why don't you have your YouTube partner manager yet?
I'm still not worth having a partner manager.
It's like you're supposed to get a partner manager assigned to you at 100,000 subscribers, and mine reached out at like 70 and was like, hey, you're on a really good road to 100K.
Well, she also reached out to me when I had like 50,000 subscribers, something like that, but this was just in the, what was it, the Rising Star program,
right?
Or something like that. But I mean, when that when that ended, she basically told me, okay, that program ended. I can't talk to you anymore.
Okay. I mean, I don't talk to my YouTube partner manager like on a daily basis either. Like we chat every 6 months or so for an hour, and we go through channel stats and tips and tricks and stuff. But that's weird that you're not. Oh, I gotta ask her about that. But
say hello to her. Maybe she still remembers me.
Yeah, but the video replacement feature, that's something that only the big boys get, because it has to be a manual review process, right? What they want to avoid is a video gets how many million views and then the creator just replaces it with something that's something completely different. Some obscene whatever they might want to put in there. So
can I just pause you for a second?
Sure.
Your wire is rubbing all of the time, I think, on your hoodie, and it's making a horrible noise.
Oh, I am sorry, everyone. I still haven't sent in my my Rode mic. That should be no. I still haven't sent in my Rode mic.
Your Rode mic.
Because that should be better, right?
That's better. Yeah, that's better. Sorry, listeners.
Where was I? I don't know.
Partner manager. Yeah.
I'm sorry about that noise.
Maybe just to end that topic, I think we definitely have a responsibility at the position where we are, because there is a reason why some call us influencers, or I don't know. The sad thing is that many creators just don't care about their responsibility.
Yeah.
But still, I don't want to be one of them. But there is still kind of a decision process that you sometimes need to do. Is that okay what I'm doing just because everyone else is doing it? And that video was the point where I was really struggling, and I uploaded the video, or I released the video. It was doing really, really well. I was totally happy, and then just like my whole weekend.
I'm
was
sorry
ruined.
to have ruined your.
No, it's totally fine. I think it's good to think about things like that, because I think that will definitely motivate me next time when I'm working on a video to do research in specific directions.
Yeah.
Think about what I'm doing. So.
Think about your actions, Stefan.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna delete that section as well and move on to the CR30.
Yeah.
Which
CR30,
is everyone has a CR30. So we we were like the last two people who unboxed one. It feels like. So Angus already has his review out. Is it? Yeah, it's a review, right?
It's a review. Joel did a review of the CR30.
I'm not gonna do a review because it's one of my policies to not review pre-production hardware and Kickstarter hardware in particular, because like they could send us anything and then ship something entirely different to backers, which has happened before.
Your cable is rubbing again.
Hold on, if I've also got is it a Sennheiser? The MKE 600 on order, the boom mic, which I'm hoping to use for regular YouTube videos from now on, so I can put that up as a boom for the podcast as well. Is that better?
It's better for the moment. I'll let you know.
I'll mute myself, and you can keep going with the CR30.
So like the CR30, Naomi Wu's 3D print mill is, it has been around on it is another one of these Kickstarter 3D printers, and Creality is, again, just as with the CR6, using Kickstarter as a big promotional platform. They sent the printers to all of the big 3D printing YouTubers.
Yeah.
And basically most of them have released videos, sometimes even reviews about a printer that is on Kickstarter, and they review the product that is not in its final state, and again, you're not buying a printer over Kickstarter, you're backing a project, and potentially you won't get anything in return.
So I can kind of understand why Creality are putting something like the CR30 on Kickstarter. I can understand it much more than for the CR6SE, because the CR30 is an experimental product that has it is radically different from something that is just another regular Prusa i3 style printer like the CR6SE. The entire belt platform that requires new tooling, lots of development. It's of course that also I'm looking at it because it's on my desk right here, but of course it's also reusing parts from existing machines, like the obviously motors, profiles, electronics, toolhead, all that is reused from other Creality printers, but like the core product itself is something that's new. Does Creality need to kickstart it? Probably not. No. But is it something that I can understand a Kickstarter for? I guess kind of, yeah.
I guess also in a bit of a way. I think Naomi said that in one of her videos, that Chinese companies are usually not comfortable releasing a product that uses unproven technology. So meaning companies are usually not happy to, for example, release a belt printer when there aren't any other basically belt printers on the market, and they don't know if there are many that will buy it, and they potentially develop something that nobody will buy, so it doesn't really work or something like that. So, and she had to do quite a lot of convincing Creality to give her the opportunity to start the project.
Yeah, because this is essentially Naomi's project, right? This isn't like Creality's project. This is something, I think in one of her tweets, it was like, okay, I would have launched this thing myself if the rules on Kickstarter would have allowed me to. So basically this is Naomi's printer with a Creality backing from a production standpoint, and Creality acting as the company making this, but really this is Naomi's project, right?
Yeah, for this reason I understand using it as a Kickstarter, but Creality definitely would not have needed the Kickstarter, because you and me, we both basically received a fully developed product. In a way, it had a manual, it was properly packed. I think there isn't any tooling necessary for that product. So I think the only things that might change are some minor details. So there isn't the need that they need that kickstart money to, for example, create injection molds and stuff like that. It's more as a prototype, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean that's getting into the discussion like what is Kickstarter? And Kickstarter is, it is a marketing platform. It's not a that I don't think they're saying anywhere that they're helping like new and upcoming companies. No, they're just like
I think it became a marketing platform. There's still some projects, and I think this is still a more or less significant amount of projects that use Kickstarter as a platform to get funding to get a product out in the open, out from having only a beta unit. And maybe that also takes us to the second point, the other Belt 3D printer that is currently on Kickstarter. I think those guys, I'm talking about iFactory, a German belt printer, I think they are using Kickstarter more as a platform to really get funding for their project.
Yep.
Because they don't have a big company in the background. I don't know if they have any venture capital or something like that. They might not have the money at the moment to manufacture this product for the big market.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they are more in the spirit of Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I've just looked up their project. They're at 147,000 euros out of a 92,900 euro goal, which is 1/10 of what the 147,000 euros is, well, a bit over 1/10 of what the CR30 is doing right now. Yeah, so that there were questions about like why, especially for me, where I'm publicly saying on the review guidelines on the website, like why are you looking at or reviewing, and not unboxing is not a review, but why are you looking at the CR30 and not the iFactory 1? And well, the iFactory, I know it kind of sucks, because on the one hand I say, okay, I'm not doing crowdfunding products on the website, and on the other hand I'm saying, well, if it's Creality, I'll take it. But I had relationships with Creality. I was writing with them back and forth, and they were like, hey, they sent me the Ender 3v2, they sent me the CR6SC, and they were like, hey, by the way, we've got this 3D print mill coming up, do you want to take a look? And it's like, well, yeah, this looks interesting. And usually I don't do, like, I get probably half a dozen emails a day asking me for some sort of a product review, whether it's crowdfunding or not. And usually I don't do, well, I never do crowdfunding products. And for this was something that I personally just was interested in, and was interested in seeing how well the technology worked, what challenges there are, what you can print with it, what you can't. And yeah, Creality reached out, iFactory didn't, so I have a Creality CR30 and not an iFactory
1.
Okay. And you didn't have one either, right?
I don't have one either. To be totally open, they reached out to me, like, I think 2 months ago, and asked me, hey, do you want to take a look at our Belt 3D printer that is coming up? It's going to be on Kickstarter at the end of the year. And I said, no, I usually don't. Well, I had bad experience with Kickstarter in the past, and I don't want to review or take a look at a printer when it's still on Kickstarter.
Yet you
and I
accepted
said, okay,
the CR30.
So then a couple of weeks later, Creality reached out to me and said, okay, our 3D print mill is coming up. Do you want to have one? And I said, yeah, I would like to have one, but for once I don't really have the time in November and December to put out a video when it is important for you, when the Kickstarter is, and I don't want to do Kickstarters anymore. And they said, all right. And then just like a week later, I got an email with a shipping notification. Hey, by the way, we send you a CR30. Okay. So, and for me, I still didn't plan to take a look at it when it was still on Kickstarter, just for, well, also for being fair to iFactory. But then, I don't know, my place upstairs finished, and I hadn't been doing a live stream for a year, and I thought, okay, this is now finally the time. I have a really nice product downstairs to do another live stream. And I don't know, then I did it at the weekend. But on Saturday I had a really bad conscience, and I reached out to the guys at iFactory and said, hey, I'm totally sorry, this wasn't fair to you guys. I should not have taken a look at that other Belt 3D printer that is on Kickstarter when I said I don't want to take a look at yours. So, but it happened. I still feel kind of sorry for it, but
was it worth it though? Was your experience with the CR30 worth it?
I had adhesion problems.
I have adhesion problems too. Like, I got, the day after I unboxed it, I tried to print, I just made like a fan filter box that fits a regular car air filter, and just has two 120mm fans, and I wanted to print like 2 of these on one side, and the first part came out okay, lifted on one side, but the part after that was just a whole bunch of spaghetti. That's all that's left of the second part. You can kind of see, and I've not gotten a part to stick since. I don't know, it might be that the hot end is like too shallow. It almost looks like it's not pressing down, it's squeezing out forward too much.
I also still need to figure out proper leveling and proper distance between the nozzle and the belt. But yeah, also the belt is giving me a bit of an issue at the moment. And I really hope that they are changing something for the final product. I think the first belt that they launched it with, and I think also Joel, for example, got, was way coarser and parts even stuck too well to it.
Okay.
This now is, I wouldn't say it's really the opposite, but it's harder to get parts to stick on the belt itself.
So I think you have the same belt that I do.
Yes, I do. It's that finer weave, and you don't have this crisscross pattern anymore.
Yeah.
Where the belt is stitched together. Did I have a good time with the CR30? It is a really interesting machine. It's well built. I got some really nice prints with it, but I think software is currently still limiting it a bit, and just my experience with, I wouldn't say that technology, but things like how do I need to level the printer?
Yeah.
How do I need to prepare the belt, for example? So that is currently still causing me issues, and but I haven't also been working on it for the last 2 or 3 days.
I find it's just such a completely new experience, and the workflows that you used to with regular square Cartesian printers just don't work anymore. Like for leveling, like, well, you just have like 2 points, and is it the same on yours, where when you move the nozzle down to like the 0, when you home the y-axis, it actually feels like it's not the nozzle gripping, but the sock. Yeah. I trimmed mine down a bit more, but it's still doing that.
I think so as well, and you always see like the marks of the nozzle on the belt itself.
That too, yeah.
Yeah, it is a new experience, and I think there's still quite a lot of experience by the community missing to get this thing working properly. And I still have the statement that if you want to get into 3D printing, don't buy a belt printer for the moment.
Oh, for sure. I definitely don't buy a belt printer. I mean, yeah.
If it's your first printer.
No. Well, yeah,
it's gonna ruin your day.
But yeah.
Still, I am very happy that the iFactory 1 and also the CR30, that they exist and they started existing, because that technology had been way more expensive in the past. If you take a look at the black belt is $10,000-15,000.
Yeah.
And there are applications, there are definitely applications where a belt 3D printer is usable. I think Naomi says that she rather sees it for long parts and not really serial production. But for me, and also how I would personally use it, is definitely for serial production.
Yeah. Same here, which is why, I mean, on the live stream, I've already said, like if you take the Core XY gantry, which is a system, like a closed system by itself, it's not like integral to the rest of the frame. You could just take that, put it on a Z-axis, and use that as just a Core XY, and then have an automatic feed with the belt. The belt is a bit too slow to use it as a Y-axis, but you could definitely take the Core XY and just so the black belt I think is 45 degrees as well, but the white knight is 30, so it's a shallower gantry. And I think the shallower gantry is actually more useful for doing serial production, because you probably have better bed adhesion, because you're squeezing the filament more into the bed, and also you can print slightly off vertical walls, tipped away from the nozzle, which is something that we saw in the Creality live stream, where they printed benchies where the backside of the benchy already needed supports, and they specifically printed the backside of the benchy first, because that was the shallow and the shallow side of the side that had less of an overhang. So there are definitely some big limitations when it comes to just part geometry that's going to work, right? But yeah, continuous prints like the swords or beams or that sort of thing. I don't know if you need to print beams, but those longer prints, I guess you can prop them up with support. If that's if support material is what it takes to be able to print those things versus not being able to print them at all, I think that's great.
And I think we definitely need to point out that the reason why we don't have like a Z-axis perpendicular to the belt is just because there's still a pattern on it, and as long as that exists, you are, or no manufacturer or makerbot is only allowed to sell a machine with such kinematics. But I still maybe see a market for aftermarket modifications for specifically that machine, that you buy a couple of simple parts and modify that on your own at home to
because you're totally allowed to do that. Like nobody's stopping you from doing that.
Yeah. And this, I think, makes it even more interesting.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And this is also maybe something I really have to give kudos to Naomi, because she made sure that, for example, the belt will also be available to be purchased separately for DIY, for building DIY printers that have
is it going to be just the belt, or is it going to be the entire belt platform?
I think it's just the belt.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I think it's probably just the belt.
Yeah. I saw on the Kickstarter that you can order extra belts already. I think they're like $40 or something. But yeah, when it comes to those DIY approaches of trying to make a belt printer yourself, it's always been like, I know from the old Thingomatic days, like, right, it's you need to get this titanium film and you cut it at 45 and then you wrap Captain around it in one specific pattern, and then it kind of works, and you've got like this tiny little belt that still like wobbles and does all sort of weird stuff. But having a continuous belt that is made for 3D printed parts to stick to, I think that's going to be a big enabler, because the roller systems and stuff, you can build that. Right? It's not easy to build it properly, but you can build it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is. I mean, that's definitely great. Like you said, even if it's just like upgrade kits for existing printers.
And even though the machine will be like around $1,000 on retail,
MSRP,
it's probably gonna be like $800-900 at the usual sales that GearBest and all the other platforms have. It's still way more affordable than everything that was there before, and I think it's totally feasible maybe in the future to buy such a machine and modify it to just having a belt that simply ejects parts after each print. And there is probably a big market for that. And that would get around all of the limitations that you have with such a belt system due to overhangs and also the limits in software.
Yeah, because you just use a regular slicer and then add an NG code, or Nylon, if Nylon adds the looping G code, which Scott is working on right now, you could also do that the same way. You just have a eject move, which you can hook up to like a second extruder slot. If you just need how many motors does this thing have? It's just one for the belt, right? Yeah, it's just one motor for the belt. So use extruder 2 and just drive it off there. You don't even need to do any bad hacks in firmware. So yeah, definitely very nice tech, but of course first generation. And yeah, we'll see what these newfound tools and capabilities bring us. Just like newfound tools and capabilities in software bring us. And that's the next topic I put in, and it's new software that's coming out that's getting not as much attention as I think it should. So yeah, this is specifically for like the apparently newsworthy, which I've also tweeted about, the apparently newsworthy release of the Prusa hold on, the the full canon name of the of the Mark III S Plus is the original Prusa Mendel i3 Mark III S Plus. If you want to go canon with this thing. But yeah, Prusa puts out a new minor hardware release for the Mark III S Plus. I don't even know what changed. Something changed. They put the super pin on there. Okay, cool. Which is much more of a change for the Prusa Mini, but like, okay, cool, nice. But the fact that there's new firmware for those same printers, the one of the reasons that inspired me to really look into that is I used that's the CW one. I used the ESO one recently, and I connected it to my wife and was like, hey, new firmware will. And I was like, okay, update. It took like 15 minutes. And after that, I just noticed, okay, it's got new animations, it's got new stuff it's showing you, it's, usability is better, it's stuff that's added to the printer that I think has more value than the Super Pinder versus the original Pinder. Or even than a glossy spring steel sheet. You can do so much with just support in firmware. And that is, well, it's support in firmware, and it's also slicer updates. So we've got Idea Maker 4.0 is coming out in there. Prusa Slicer 2.3 is it? Yeah, is in beta and near release candidate right now. Like particularly slicers and firmware and those being well made now adds so much to the experience you're having as a user. Do you agree?
Definitely. Okay. Yeah, definitely. I think, and this was the reason why I also pointed out slicing software for belt printers before, because they are currently still limited by the software that's available. But yeah, Idea Maker 4.0, I have been using it briefly, Idea Maker, in the past, because it has some really nice features, and it's basically a copy of Simplify 3D. And since probably version 5 of Simplify 3D is never going to happen, I'm hoping that Idea Maker will implement a couple of those things. But also that they have been teasing that they will be implementing belt slicing in their slicer, and with advancement of software, it will also advance or make hardware way more capable. Prusa Slicer. So I started with Slick 3R or Slicer, or however you want to call it, 4 or 5 years ago, and it was okay. But switching to Simplify 3D at that time was just an enormous step. Yeah. But the way Prusa Slicer has been coming, it is, in my opinion, currently, I think one of the most polished slicers out there.
Yeah, I mean, so for a while, the new Cura basically 2.0, and we're now at 4.8 or something. Those had Slick 3D beat for quite a while when it comes to just how capable it is and how detailed you can adjust your print settings. Yeah, I put you in airplane mode. Yeah, so Cura had Prusa Slicer beat for a while, and then when Cura had Slick 3D beat for a while, and then when Prusa Slicer came in and became a part of, or Prusa took the Slick 3D project and made it their own slicer, I think that's when that became maybe not as like detailed in slicing settings, but just capable in what it can do. I honestly, I've used Simplify 3D like once. Maybe I've used it probably more as a G-code viewer than I did as a slicer. I just found the interface just too many steps you have to go through, and like what? But obviously it's a paid slice. It's $150, so I didn't really have much incentive of using this and trying to get more people to spend money on stuff that, if you look at open source slices, you kind of have to anticipate that those slices are going to be at that level at a point. But where am I going with this? I don't know.
Where, well, yeah, Cura has been beating Slick 3R in the past, but in my opinion, Prusa Slicer has overtaken Cura. For me, I'm still using Cura from time to time, but Cura now has so many settings that you can tweak that it's, I don't know, even too much for me. And basically almost any printer I've been using over the last 1 or 2 years, where I just use the standard profile in Prusa Slicer and just tweak retraction setting and I don't know, build envelope, pretty great.
Yeah.
Super great results. So
honestly, so what I'm doing is I guess is not typical. I've recently realized that with the way that I'm not using Octoprint, but with so many printers around and with so many different machines, I basically just use the whatever slicer the manufacturer provides. Like for the Creality machines, for the Ender 3v2, it's Creality slicer, which is Cura 4 point something, and it works fine. It works absolutely fine. For Prusa, I use Prusa slicer because, well, it's got the best profiles for the Prusa machines. For the Elegoo printers, well, obviously use Box because there's Lychee slicer, but yeah, I just use whatever that the manufacturer has made profiles for. And most of the slices are really good these days. Like, yeah, use whichever one you like.
For me, it's kind of different because I'm so used to Prusa Slicer that I often don't really bother installing the slicers that come with the printers, because I know if I use the default profile in 95% of the cases, the results are better than with the provided profiles in their own software. So,
but that is
for that reason.
That is for using the printer and for doing stuff that you want to do, and not for testing the printer, I assume.
I think your testing approach is unique in a way that you try to give your viewers an experience of the machine as if they are totally new and would follow all of the steps that the manufacturer suggests. I am also trying to be as close as possible in a way that I don't do like 20 modifications before I start a review. But I don't know, Slicer is something so important for me, and also something that is I'm currently missing the word. Well, that can be just, you can use one slicer and use it basically for all of the machines. That I rather use a slicer that I know how it works to try to get the most out of the machine that I'm reviewing. Because I say, okay, if that printer is limited by the provided software, I think it's the easiest step to just change to another slicer than doing like 20 modifications and ruining your printer that way.
All right.
So,
but what do you do when the printer doesn't print well with the slicer that you're using? Like that could be your fault in how you set it up.
Well, if that is the case, I definitely try to use their slicer and their profile, but it rarely happened to me that this was the cause of bad printing results. As I said, in 95% of the cases over the last years, basically the standard profile in Prusa Slicer or in the past Simplify 3D worked better than the provided profile.
Yeah, I mean, what's kind of confusing me in that regard is like, why aren't manufacturers just saying, hey, use this slicer, do this, set it up like that, and boom, you've got a great printing machine, instead of trying to ship like Cura 14.07 and saying, here's the profile for that, and use that, and it doesn't even run on Windows 10. And it's like, why, guys? Why are you doing this? When there's official instructions that tell you, okay, do this way, and it doesn't even work. Like that's gotta be a mark off.
Well, I think there are several reasons for that, but I think for some, it's a bit of prestige to have their own skin version of Cura, which is then called Creality Slicer or some other brand name slicer. Second, I find it really hard to import printer profiles in Cura. I don't know if I'm just too stupid to do that, but
The new Cura is a bit weird about that, yeah.
like Cura 4 and 3 were, in my opinion, really weird about that, because you can't import a printer with like the print envelope and start and end G code. As far as I know, please correct me if I'm wrong there. But you can import printing profiles in a way that the print settings are made properly. I find that a bit inconvenient, and I kind of can understand that some manufacturers hesitate doing that step. But with Prusa Slicer, for example, it's way simpler. You have your ini file or your 3MF file where everything is included. There's the printer profile included, there is the slicing profile included, and the filament profile included.
Go ahead.
But shipping a printer that uses a slicer that is branded with the name of another printer company might also something that some companies just hesitate to do.
Sure. I guess Cura is a bit better there because it's just Cura, and you could call it Ultimaker Cura if you wanted to. Prusa Slicer is a bit aggressive there, shipping, I don't know, an alpha wise with Prusa Slicer. I mean, when they're calling their printer Prusa i3 anyways, like, is there really that big of a deal? It's just a slicer for Prusa machines. Like, the other thing I wanted to bring up is, like, there's, as far as I'm aware, there's not much stopping companies from submitting their own official profiles to both Prusa Slicer or Cura, right? They do allow third-party manufacturers to create their own profiles and to have it ship with just mainline Prusa Slicer, mainline Cura, and then basically you download the newest version of that slicer and you get that selection menu where it's like, okay, I want a Creality in the 3. I think that's in Prusa Slicer already.
Yeah.
Sure, then it's another company's slicer, but at least I mean, you get the newest software, and you kind of have to jump over your shadow and saying, okay, this company put a lot of effort into making the slicer, and well, it's their product.
Well, Prusa Slicer is slowly starting to implement that. I think they started with 2.2, so with the last official stable release, to include third-party manufacturers' profile into Prusa Slicer. It is large. Well, there are way more printers now in Prusa Slicer with version 2.3, and they have, I think, the nice system of having the possibility to update profiles, well, without the need to download a new version of the software, because the profiles can be updated in the background. I don't know if Cura has a certification process if you want to have your printer in official Cura.
I don't know.
In my opinion, that would be the proper way to do it, and that would make it the easiest for everyone, because installing software that is on a generic thumb drive in a, I don't know, printer box always, I don't know, tickles me a little. I don't know if I'm now a Bitcoin miner. And also, usually you don't just have the latest release with the latest software.
Just get a completely separate computer to install all your slices on, and then connect it via HDMI so you can view it in your live streams. This is the computer that's doing all the slicing in all of my live streams. This has all the cool slices on it that companies supply, and this computer that we're using right now is just streaming computer and clean. It has my personal stuff on it. This has no accounts logged in. no network network share access or anything. This is just the trash box. Yeah, it's kind of weird when you have to install some software from someone who, maybe even triggers a Windows not firewall, but the Windows Defender warning, where it's like, oh, this is unsigned software, or it's a weird file signature that we've not seen before. Yeah,
I think it's mainly prestige of the manufacturers that they think that they need to do that because everyone else is doing it as well. In my opinion, it also doesn't make sense provided to any of the common slicers, and provide a profile to the common slicers, and they have the possibility to have properly updated software and also profiles. Doesn't matter if the printer is shipped today or in a year.
Yeah,
maybe they're scared that in a year Prusa Slicer says, okay, we don't allow external profiles anymore.
True, but at that point they could still fork the software. But then it's like, we've already shipped with Prusa Slicer. It's dependencies on other companies that are your competitors. I see how that is tricky.
Yeah. Maybe just to finish that up, have you been working with Idea Maker in the past?
I have not.
Okay. Why? No need?
Didn't occur to me.
Okay.
Like for you're saying you're using Prusa Slicer for everything basically. I'm using Prusa Slicer for machines where I don't have a profile for another slicer or an official slicer, or I build something myself. I do use Prusa Slicer for that for the most time, and it's just been doing everything that it needed to do. Like, I've not had a need to use another slicer.
In the past, I used another slicer, Simplify 3D, for the great supports that they have. But since
talk about their great support that they still have.
The great support structures. You know what I mean? But this is now also obsolete because other slicers have that as well. For which reason I also still used it is for design of experiments. If I want to test different printing settings, there is basically nothing better than Simplify 3D, because for every part on the print platform you can use a different layer height, a different everything, different print setting, nozzle temperatures. This is great, but they haven't updated their software. And as I said, Idea Maker is basically a copy of Simplify 3D. I think they even have some of the developers of Simplify.
I've heard that as well, yeah.
And they implemented really nice DOE tools into Idea Maker. So if you or the listeners ever have the need to try out 20 different settings on one printing platform, Idea Maker's got you covered, because as I said, they have a DOE tool where you can say, okay, I want this parameter varied from this to that range, and it directly, I think it creates copies of the part,
right,
and assigns a different profile to all of the parts.
So it's basically
really cool.
It's basically that paid web tool that we've talked about like 2 or 3 episodes ago, where you go in and it gives you a set of G codes. Yeah, it's basically that in Idea Maker now.
Not that automated, not that automated, but if you know what you're doing, this can be the way to go. And what I'm, for example, still missing in Prusa Slicer, you are not able to change the nozzle temperature per part,
right?
Which doesn't make a huge amount of sense if you're printing continuously. But I'm often doing sequential prints, where I would like to assign a different temperature to all of the parts, because I want to find out what the influence of printing temperature is. That's not possible, so I still need to go into the G code and add M104
exactly
by my own or on my own.
I've done that manually too before for Philween Season 1, obviously, with the filament temperature for the calibration prints. Like, that's just been manually edited G code. Of course, like if you have to do a lot of it, you just add like a tag in the G code, and you just do Control F and you find it, and you. But it's like, no, come on, you can do that better.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if I don't think I have 2.3 on this machine, but they've kept adding to those options that you can do per part and per modifier mesh.
Yeah.
So I don't know, nozzle temperature might at some point become one of those options as well.
Yeah. I probably just need to submit it to the GitHub requests at some point. And what I also have to give them kudos, if you submit something to GitHub, and if it's something feasible, they are very active in implementing stuff and also fixing bugs, which is really, really nice.
Yeah.
And I think I have been using all of the alpha and beta versions of 2.3 because they added some really cool stuff in there.
Yeah, you know what would be nice? If you could select an entire printing profile per part. You just say, okay, this part is, I've got my, vase mode 0.25 millimeter layers tuned in. I'm going to use that for this. And then, well, I guess for RAID modes, sequential doesn't make sense, but I mean,
Simplify 3D.
If you print, yeah.
That was the reason why I
just
used Simplify, because you were able to do that. You could start, for example, with a really normal printing profile, and then at some layer continue with vase mode, and then get back to normal printing.
Yeah.
Idea Maker also's got you covered. So
should look
you don't
into
want
that.
to spend $150 if you want to do something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I see you found your fidget toy as well. I've got my micro SD card in the adapter. It's just something you yeah.
I'm starting to get really tired. I don't know. I need something to keep me awake. It's 10 o'clock at night, and I started working like 6-7 o'clock in the morning.
You've earned your Feierabend. So I guess let's close this one out. Guys, thank you for watching. We're going to be back hopefully a bit earlier with the next episode.
Maybe for Christmas.
Yeah, you're off work, so you've got time. Well, probably all booked out already. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Stefan, for taking the time.
Sorry for taking that long, Tom and listeners and viewers. But still, thank you for your time. And I guess we'll see each other hopefully soon.
Definitely. And if you've enjoyed the episode, like, subscribe, support us on Patreon. We don't have YouTube memberships on this channel, but thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.